So Ben, lovely to meet you. So Shrav's, given me some background of all the exciting things that ANZSOG have been doing recently. And so I would love to hear more about ANZSOG's digital transformation journey, in particular how the staff experience has been transformed as a result of the Salesforce solutions that you've implemented.
I'll go way back to when I started at ANZSOG and I walked into the organisation, and Salesforce was pretty much used as a contact management system. So, you could have used Outlook and you might be more productive as compared to using Salesforce. So I came from a higher education background in the advancement area. So I sort of knew pretty much exactly what I wanted to achieve using Salesforce CRM. And one of the biggest issues that we had was around organising the information in Salesforce to support our programs, because we're on a different cloud. And the different cloud didn't sort of allow us to have, relationships set up between individuals, organisations. It didn't have affiliations, a whole range of things we just could not record. And previously the organisation was trying to record things in a strange kind of way for what the business was trying to achieve. So I tracked up to Sydney a number of times and went to the Salesforce office, overlooking the water there, very nice. And we had a discussion around Salesforce and the different clouds that were available and what might be more suitable to us. So with that in mind, I spoke to the architect and lots of people up there in Salesforce. So that was a really good experience. So came back and decided we definitely needed to put in EDA. So that had all the elements and arranged in the way that we required. And then we moved on with the project to, migrate to cloud, organize information, and also getting the information out from a myriad of spreadsheets. So we got to know exactly who our clients were, and then of course who our prospective clients might be for our other programs as they go through their education journey. In addition to that, we needed to have some kind of external facing event registration and payment system, because that was done in a very, very rudimentary way and using a different technology. So I wanted something that was very flexible, that could have all the ticketing options we required. And of course, I wanted to feed back into Salesforce. So we went and chose through a pretty rigorous evaluation process, platform called Cvent. And that served all our needs, and it still does. And all the information flows through into Salesforce. And then that gives us the opportunity to look at the, transactions for the payments, but obviously to know exactly who we were engaging with and where we might take them next in their journey. So the really good thing about Salesforce, of course, is I wanted to improve data integrity in the whole thing. And one way of doing that was to stage the information in Salesforce, allow the finance people, for example, to have a look at it, make sure that the transactions were all good. It was, to the right customer, and then releasing that information through to our finance system. And by the time it got to the finance system, it was pristine. So I could go through a number of efficiency gains we got from that. One of which we had the reporting. I'm told from the staff that literally weeks were put into producing one report, and obviously 2 weeks later, data is out of date. We brought that up to just a simple click, all these reports running at the same time. We improved not only the integrity of data in Salesforce, but also in the finance system, and we had less complaints from our customers about billing.
What a great news story. And we love hearing those great stories. But it's interesting because a common issue we hear, Ben, from many of our, particularly our education customers, because, to get that holistic view of, any customer, any stakeholder, whether it's, your students or perhaps alumni, as all that information is typically held within multiple systems, student management system, learning management system. And obviously you had spreadsheets. So it sounds like, in terms of some of the benefits you're seeing is, the fact that it's improved data integrity and the reporting of that information. Are there any other benefits that you and the team are seeing since you've implemented Salesforce solutions?
Going back to the decision to go to EDA, which is a fundamental decision that really shaped where we went next with it. So the other problem that we had at the time was we had a student system that where the vendor was literally no longer existed. If you clicked on the vendor link, you were taken to a laundromat, actually. So clearly that needed to be replaced. So we went to market again, and my number one priority was to get something that was natively compliant with Salesforce, and it had to reside in Salesforce as an app. So with that, we went and got a platform called Rio Education, and we implemented that and obviously migrated all the information across and did all the usual things. But the biggest benefits that we were then seeing was that we had Salesforce as being the go-to place. And clearly by having an app within Salesforce, all the stakeholder information, we're pretty much just adding to the base. So they happen to be a student going through a master's program. They happen to be a guest, speaker or, ambassador, whatever it might be. We had all that information. So with that, we also needed to obviously automate and streamline the student lifecycle processes and, give the student a much better experience than what they were receiving up until now. So we also have an LMS system called Canvas, and also wanted something that was, again, natively compliant or natively had connectors into Salesforce. And not only that, I wanted to have native connectors from Rio Education into Canvas so that the information flowed through nicely. So that was all achieved. So when people went through the application process, a long form application process through Salesforce forms, then they were taken into Salesforce, and then they were admitted to the course. And then after that point, they then automatically flowed through into Canvas, and the account was set up automatically. They were put into the right course, they were put into the right group, and information flowed back again as well. So the automation just was extraordinary in terms of the time that people were spent using all the manual. Everything was done manually up until we connected all these things up. So now, going on from what I mentioned earlier, so now we're in a spot where we have Salesforce EDA, we have Cvent, we have Rio Education, we have Canvas, all in one ecosystem. And the reporting that we could get out from Salesforce and the analytics, which we're going to next, just really gave people back literally 30 hours of their work week. And that's not an exaggeration either.
Thank you for sharing that. Another area I'm sort of would love to tap into a little bit more, and you mentioned before about the benefits that staff are seeing, in that it sounds like they're more proactive rather than possibly reactionary. Are there any other benefits that you think staff are seeing since moving to Salesforce? I
think retention of staff is a big one, because it'd be very hard to get good caliber people if they come to the organisation and are dealing with manual processes. So no one wants to have a huge administrative overhead. And if you do have that in the organisation, then the people who hang around will be of that ink to actually do those kind of processes. But if you want to, be really modern and get people to really leverage their skills and take things forward, then having all those things automated was immensely helpful. And I can pretty much guarantee that we've retained staff because we would have lost them if we hadn't have gone through this journey, and that's obviously a benefit as well. The other benefit is, from a helicopter view, is that when we have applications coming through for our foundation programs, the master's programs and the two flagship executive education programs, we wanted to know what the cohort looked like. So we had the application processes set up in Salesforce, and we had external facing application forms, quite a long application form where they could come back and time again draft up their response and come back and then finally submit it. The benefit of having that information in a dashboard was that the CEO, every single day, he was the biggest user of those dashboards, because he wanted to know if revenue projections were on course. But not only that, we wanted to make sure the segments of our prospective clients were correct. So we wanted to have a obvious, basic thing is a gender balance, a balance between the jurisdictions across Australia and New Zealand. We didn't want them all coming from New South Wales, for example. And then we adjust our marketing campaigns to pick up more applications from the segments that are lacking. And we wanted diversity, equity, all those other things we wanted to ensure in the mix. So through having the workflows built in through the behind the scenes, I guess, and through the dashboards that are surfaced on the dashboards, the transparency of people's work was really extraordinary, and it just drove the business forward. It actually probably ultimately changed the operating model of the organisation, because marketing were a lot more engaged. There was connections between the people running the programs, marketing, and our CEO, who took extraordinary ownership of making sure that things were happening. And I remember even recently, one of our executive programs had very poor application numbers. We would never have known that in the past, because they all came through in Word documents. And to pivot and quickly make a few phone calls to our biggest clients, and for them to send through new customers, that really did change the bottom line.
Ben, I can't thank you enough for your time today. It's been an incredible journey for you, and a successful one, which is so great to hear. It sounds like you and I both could talk about business transformation all day. I certainly can, and particularly in an education setting. So look, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
Hi, in this segment I'm going to talk briefly about how the Australian Film, Television and Radio School uses the education data architecture. So let's talk about personas. Santa is a member of the AFTRS admission team. She wants to offer postgraduate courses, and she wants a single source of truth to manage the applications she gets in relation to those courses. Kane is a prospective cinematography postgrad. He wants a no-fuss application process. And Dan is a postgraduate application assessor who wants a reliable assessment process. So Kane goes and browses the AFTRS website, finds the Master of Arts screen link, follows through, reads how he can fast-track his career in the global screen industry, sees that there are several disciplines available, and selects cinematography. Currently, this course is closed, but he can register his interest for next year. But let's go through the earlier process that Kane would have followed to make an application. So first, Sumter makes the offers for the 2020 courses available through Salesforce. She has 14 offers here for Master of Arts, Graduate Diploma and Bachelor of Arts. If she looks specifically at the Master of Arts Cinematography program, she can see that it's been offered for the last 4 years. When she goes into the detail of the current offer, she can make sure that there's the correct Apply Now URL, which is synchronized with the AFTRS website, which enables Kane to click on Apply Now and follow through to the AFTRS portal. He's already logged in to this space, so we already know some of his personal details, but we can ask him to provide those details that we don't have. We ask for his academic details. He uploads a copy of his Bachelor of Arts from UNSW, various other information that we're asking him about. And in the application task section, he's specifically asked to provide information relating to the cinematography masters. In this case, he's done his own mashup of the Orson Welles Citizen Kane movie, which is a riff on his own name. He also provides a personal statement and another creative work. All of these All of these are potentially large files which are uploaded and stored securely in Amazon Web Services using a plugin that we've developed specifically for Salesforce. Once he's made his application and filled in all of the details, he can review, go back and change anything, or press continue and be presented with a set of terms and conditions. When he submits, he's returned to his portal and he can see current applications that are in draft or submitted applications. In this case, his cinematography MA. So back to Sumter. She now needs to validate Kane's documents. She can see his application amongst all the other applications that have come in. She knows the status is submitted. So it's now time to check his documents. So within Kane's application, she goes to the Validation tab. And this gives us her access to all of the files that have been uploaded securely again to Amazon Web Services. She gets to download and view these files and determine whether they're correct or not. And in this case, she's found that Kane has uploaded his graduation certificate, not his academic transcript. So she sets the file to be not valid, and Kane is sent an email informing him that he needs to go and source another document. He's keen and ready for this, so he quickly goes in and updates his application, and Sumter can go through all of his other documents and create a valid application ready for the next stage. And the next stage is assigning an assessor. Each application is assigned 3 assessors. Assessors are professionals from the media industry who are invited to blind assess applications. In this case, Dan and his 2 colleagues, David and Alejandra. Dan visits the assessor portal, which gives him access to very limited information about applications. He sees no information about applicants, simply the ID code of their application. When he opens up the application that's been assessed to him, he can view the uploaded video files, sometimes extremely large files that previously, before we used Salesforce and AWS, were extremely difficult to view. Now it's pretty simple. He can view the work and provide his comments. In this case, he provides a fairly low score. Dan gets to review his previous assessments, and you can see that his criteria have been transformed into a weighted score using a back-end algorithm. Sumter can use this weighted score to rank applications, and based on the number of places available in the course, make appropriate offers. So while Kane is waiting for his offer, he can scroll down to the bottom of his profile page and see that he is eligible for 3 scholarships. This eligibility is calculated based on what we know about Kane and what we know about the applications he's made. In this case, we know that Kane is eligible for an AFTRS storytelling scholarship. If he goes to apply, he follows a very similar process to the application he made for MA. He provides personal details, some different application tasks, and then submits. This is assessed in the same way, and eventually Kane will receive an offer for a scholarship and an offer to enroll in the Masters. So, Sumter has a manageable and reportable application administration process. Kane has an offer for a world-class MA with a potential scholarship, and Dan can easily assess the many interesting applications that he's been asked to look at, and he has confidence that the process was fair and unbiased.
So Scarlett and Mitch, absolute pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for being a part of this event. And I have a few questions about your experience with Salesforce. And thank you so much for being a customer of ours. It's tremendous to read about your journey. And I really want to talk about, your experience with Salesforce and DataColada and how our solutions is making not just your members' life easier, but your life. So I understand that before you implemented Salesforce, the member registration process was quite challenging for the ARC team. Can you just tell me a little bit about how the member experience has been transformed since adopting Salesforce?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having us as well, Sam. We're really delighted to be part of this. So prior to Salesforce, we used a much less bespoke system over at ARC, and it was kind of a system that was developed in the States, and their universities and student life structures are quite different to the kind of traditional English Australian style, which meant that their system was great for American universities, but it was quite clunky and not supportive of a really rich and pleasurable student kind of digital experience. Particularly, like, what we do is we really welcome new students into the ecosystem, and we want every single touch point to be really delightful. And so working with DataColada and jumping over to the Salesforce platform, or as we've mastered it to be called Spark, because our organization is ARC and it sparks up your life and all of these wonderful things. But the whole idea now is that experience is much more customized, personalized, and also it gives us the back-end flexibility to adapt and change things as things in the space change as well. So for example, on our previous system, it would have been quite challenging if anything in the university, like faculties changed. And our university actually merged 3 faculties recently, which for any data scientists out there, that can be quite a terrifying experience in order to have to scrub a lot of data, clean it all up, make your old data match your new data, those kinds of things. And so to be able to kind of adapt that process and have that capacity in-house has been really transformational. And it means that we can give better information to students in a more timely manner, which means that every aspect of their experience becomes more positive. And keeping students happy, making them have a really enriching experience is exactly what we're in the business of. So it's been a really great change for us.
I think, for Salesforce, we understand creating that sense of belonging is so important to the student journey. And as we know, engaging with members and certainly students, has never been more important than it is at the moment. Thankfully, parts of the country are now, returning to some sort of normality. But how do you feel the Salesforce platform has helped you, better connect and engage with members?
Well, I think one of the key things during the pandemic, just to start talking about that, obviously a lot of students are really feeling the difference with being stuck at home. And yes, that is absolutely the not being in the classroom experience, but it is also all the things they get enriched by being on campus. And so one of the things that has been really great to have with Salesforce is this consistency during the pandemic. We moved to Salesforce about a year before the pandemic. So we had a bit of familiarity with the system. We had our students used to it. And that's something that stayed consistent over this period, whereas everything else has been, really shifting sands underneath us. But for our clubs and for our students, they know that Spark is the place to go to browse our clubs, to find where they are and how to reach them. And certainly there are things that can be improved about it, but it is there and it's consistent. And there's a lot of back-end processes that we have that, again, we've been able to keep consistent for clubs because they're fully online, and we haven't had to change those requirements, so that has been something that they can be sure of, as opposed to everything else really being uncertain. So that means that we can say to them, hey, this is still the same. You don't have to worry about that. Let's instead focus on engagement, where we can be talking to the students and really bringing their student experience the best that we can from home at the moment.
Certainly, we've talked about the member-student experience, which is, very important, but just as important, I believe, is the staff experience. How was the experience of the ARC team been since, how Salesforce helping you particularly at a moment where, your workload has perhaps increased?
It's a really interesting question, Sam, because we are kind of heading into more of a maturity phase with having Salesforce at ARC. So I've kind of wiped my memory of what life before Salesforce was actually like, but I was thinking about that a little bit just before this. And we used to export every single thing as a Excel sheet from our previous platform, and then have to manually go through and clean up any data, create any dashboards, marry up information. The power of Salesforce that we're really discovering is that back-end capability to create dashboards, synchronous reporting, to share that information. So it allows the whole organization to quite transparently be able to access information in a really live way that we were never able to do before. And, it has been a steep learning curve, because Salesforce, for a small not-for-profit or community-based organization like ARC, we're not a sales team or a marketing team. So it has been a pretty steep learning curve, learning all the capabilities, but actually reflecting, like, as we do more and more things with Salesforce, I think the literacy of the organization increases, and it means that we feel more confident being able to collect data, marry data, review data, share dashboards, and those kinds of things, which has been a huge win and a massive time saver.
But before we finish, I'd like to know, what advice would you give to other clubs and societies, and how they can better engage with members and students in all aspects of their student life?
It's a really important question. I mean, the key principles from our perspective are to listen to your membership, and listening isn't just asking surveys and getting data back, but it's actually getting that qualitative information from people on the ground, people at home, your friends and your friends of friends. Like, what stuff do they actually want to do? Some feedback that we've really gotten from students in terms of participation is that they're really craving new things. So they just want to try new stuff all the time, which means that wash, rinse, repeat doesn't work in the same way that it did anymore. We've got to keep offering new and fresh things, which is an exciting thing to do as a staff member. And within that is to be like insights driven as much as you possibly can be. And then the other thing is to collaborate really closely. We at ARC, we have a lot of different teams that do different functions. We've got a sport team, Scarlett's clubs team, a volunteering team, a marketing team, an events team. And this year, every single team has just been mashed up into a big, agile, collaborative workforce in a way that we've never seen before. And it's led to some really, really exciting, creative outcomes. It's led to some great synergies, some great skill sharing, and I think great outcomes for students as well. So I think that people shouldn't be afraid to mash things together and say yes to weird and wacky ideas. You've got to fail fast in this kind of online environment, and you don't really have that much to lose. So I think it's always good to have a crack at something new.
Mitch and Scarlett, I can't thank you enough for your time today and taking us through a little bit of, ARC's journey. So thank you again. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
I do want to give it probably a quick shout out, if we're still recording, to the team at DataColada, who really held our hand through the implementation of Salesforce in a way that I've never had such a close and collaborative experience with an external provider before. And we're really grateful. It's really empowered our staff and our team to do stuff that we probably never thought was possible beforehand. So we are really grateful for their guidance and expertise.
Hi. ARC, UNSW Student Life, is run by students for students with the mission of creating the best student experience through clubs, sport, volunteering, events, wellness, and heaps more. We've helped ARC achieve this goal by implementing for them and helping them manage Salesforce Experience Cloud. So, personas. Fred, a member of the ARC team, he wants to support student clubs. He wants a single source of truth about clubs, members and participation. Once again, we see Kane, an undergraduate student at New South Wales this time. He wants to enjoy the student life and he is thinking about starting a club. So Kane goes to the beautifully designed and compelling art website and clicks on Join Today. His undergraduate membership is free, but there's opportunities for other types of membership to be paid through the integrated payment gateway. So Kane joins. And this is how ARC works. At the top level, ARC staff will have full access to the single source of truth that Salesforce provides them about members and clubs. At the bottom we have the many thousands of club members, and these club members can become club executives if elected through the general process of AGMs for some 200 or so clubs. When they become club executives, they gain a higher level of access and so can interact with their own membership. This is all handled through the Salesforce security model. So, Kane accesses the Spark portal, which is a Salesforce Experience Cloud portal, and he sees a list of clubs events. He can access volunteering opportunities, he can book resources, he can apply for grants, and in fact several other functions are available. When he looks at the listing of clubs, he can see the nearly 300 clubs that are currently operating and are affiliated to ARC. He can join, in this case, the Film Society. As you can see, when he joins, this is a club that requires approval to join. A message will be sent to the club executive and they can approve or disapprove of his membership. His membership fees are $10 as an ARC member, which he can pay when he visits the first film night. So when he goes back to My Clubs, Kane can now see Film Society along with the other clubs he's already joined. Kane can also look at club events, both the events of clubs that he's a member of and the broader open to all club events. He can register his attendance and withdraw at any time, and the club executive can keep track of who is actually going to attend their event and manage those attendances if there are problems, such as poor weather with outdoor events, which can then be cancelled or rescheduled, and attendees can be informed quickly through the portal. Kane can also go and visit the Volunteer Army section, where a number of not-for-profit organisations have partnered with ARC to take advantage of the enthusiasm and time available from various ARC members. So Kane can say he's available, he can tell exactly when he's available for that volunteering activity in terms of time or just the number of hours. And this information will be passed back to the participating charity and can be monitored easily. Kane can book a room, either as a club member or as an individual, and when he clicks, he'll be given full information of how to actually apply for that room, the conditions and the costs. Kane can in fact start a club. This involves him following some procedures and gathering documents, applying and affiliating, and this binds him and other club executives and members to follow ARC UNSW rules. Affiliating as a club gives him advantages when it comes to liability, insurance, various other aspects, and gives ARC the certainty that all club organisations will follow a set of standard rules and guidelines. He's given access to his affiliation form to start. When he fills out the details, somebody in ARC will approve or disapprove and create the new club. When Kane visits as an executive of that club, he sees a slightly different view, and this time he can see the membership of the club. He can approve, disapprove, expel members. He can view files associated with the club, in this case affiliation agreements, bank statements, old membership lists, constitutions, AGM attendance certificates. He can create an event for his club by uploading an image providing details about the time and the place, and this will then be published on the public website. You can also make it private only to club members. You can look at his financial information. From time to time there are funds that are transferred from ARC to the clubs for grants and various other purposes. And he can view previous grant applications and make new grants. And you can see here that one of his grant applications has been approved. Kane has full access to a range of forms which are associated with the administration of his club. In this case, we're looking at the re-affiliation form that he's obliged to submit every year, detailing signatories, treasurers, account numbers, various other important information which is necessary for affiliation. Staff in ARC can keep track of a range of information about clubs, club members, attendances, and various other important management information, and they can report back metrics to UNSW about the level of participation in events and clubs in general. And in case all of this administration sounds horribly boring, there's a lot of exciting things happening in ARC. They've got a very healthy membership which has remained quite stable during the COVID crisis, which is a great testament to their enthusiasm and application. And so they've earned themselves a very well-deserved wellness day.